Grenada and the rest of the world. It is the 27th day of November 2018. Folks, thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Gudday Grenada. It's going to be an interesting morning, needless to say. At the top of the ladder, once again this morning, the industrial impasse. We begin this new day with a cloud hanging over this country's head, and I don't know. We just have to continue being prayerful, and hope that this matter is resolved amicably. My prayer is that God's will be done. Got off my knees a little while ago asking Him to do just that. His will be done. We're going to begin today with a statement, which was, I'm sure you know that yesterday the unions and the government, they got together for a meeting, and shortly after that meeting ended, there were two statements issued by unions, two different unions. In addition to that, last night, the Prime Minister delivered an address which I think ran for about 25 minutes or so. And so we're going to focus a lot today on both of those statements and the address by the Prime Minister, okay? Let's start with the first statement. A statement was issued by the Grenada Union of Teachers to its membership early yesterday afternoon. Following, let me quote here, it says, following the intervention of Bishop Clyde Harvey and an invitation from the acting Minister of Labor, the union has decided on the following. 1, to attend a meeting tomorrow, that's Tuesday, today, okay, November 27th, with the acting Minister of Labor and the Pension Engagement Committee. 2, to suspend the action for tomorrow. They're talking about the current industrial action. They're telling the union to suspend, they're telling their membership to suspend the action for tomorrow, Tuesday only, in the first instance. We ask our members to return to work. And 3, pending the outcome of that meeting, which is going to take place later on this morning, teachers will be updated on the way forward. All right? They also go on to say, we ask all teachers to remain vigilant and focused. We have to continue to struggle if it becomes necessary. So there, I have just quoted for you the statement that was issued following yesterday's meeting between the government and unions. And right now, I'm not gonna read the release from the Technical and Allied Workers Union, but suffice to say, they also issued a similar statement to their membership, informing them of yesterday's development and asking their members to return to work today. Right. Now, those were the two statements. Later on in the day, yesterday, a statement was issued, a video statement was issued yesterday afternoon by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell. This statement sparked an avalanche of reaction on social media last night, still going on this morning. And that was to be expected. But dear friends, I want you to sit back and listen to this statement. As you do, you'll understand Why that avalanche of reaction? Prime Minister Mitchell.
The following is an address to the nation by Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell on the current industrial relations climate.
Fellow Grenadian sisters and brothers, I want to talk to you about the future of our beloved country and about what defines us as a nation. I also want to talk about being reasonable and fair and ensuring social justice for all. These are the things at the core of this ongoing debate about the advance payment of pensions. While I'm Prime Minister at this time, this issue is bigger than me. It is also bigger than the current leaders of the trade unions and staff associations involved in this impasse. But as leaders, the one thing we may have in common is that we all are from the working class backgrounds, with an appreciation of people's yearning for both empowerment and development. We may debate how we achieve this goal, but that debate must never degenerate into meanness, disingenuity, nor the need to score cheap populist points. This is not the long-term interests of this country. And in this debate also, we must not only listen to the people with the loudest voices, but crucially, the people with no voice at all. There is the young man who is still without a job, the single mother hoping for a chance to keep her dignity, the part-time worker with no security and no benefits, the now long retired elder whose economic circumstances has forced them into homes for the elderly. Ultimately, sisters and brothers, we'll be judged by the fight we fight for the least among us, those without the power or the confidence to champion their own worthy cause, those without the will or the connections to incite. For our nation would not be worthy to hang on to its soul if we do not take into consideration the most vulnerable among us, nor the interests of the generation to come in every decision that we make. Sisters and brothers, that's why, together as a people, we must have a discussion in the context of what is both reasonable and fair, and what is just for all the citizens of this beautiful country. And so, you may ask yourself, what is reasonable? 2 years ago, this government, through its own initiative, felt it was reasonable that public servants, like workers everywhere, should have a pension that can provide for their daily needs when they retire. It was a moral and philosophical position we took, understanding that the restoration and reformation of pension, as desirable as it is, was not necessarily an easy thing, and that it must be affordable and sustainable over the long term. For over 35 years, an entire generation ago, there was no pension for public servants except through the National Insurance Scheme, NIS. Sisters and brothers, successive governments failed to tackle this issue, not because any of them was insensitive to the cause, but because it was extremely difficult to do. Even the very trade unions that are now inflexible in their demands did not tackle this issue. Hubbard Blaze, Ben Jones, Nicholas Braffett, George Brazan, Tillman Thomas, and myself in previous terms all failed to get that job done. Let us fast forward to 2018. Government, fully cognizant that NIS alone is not sufficient to give public officers an affordable quality of life, entered into a memorandum of understanding with the public sector trade unions and staff associations to guarantee workers a pension of at least 70%, which is far more than what currently obtains. Sisters and brothers, this memorandum of understanding in principle ushered in the reformation of pensions, pending all final agreements achieved through negotiations. Fellow Grenadians, here is the truth. Government and trade unions have agreed on a formula which states that each public officer will retire with a pension that is not less than 70% of their last salary. The widely spewed narrative that government has somehow gone back on an understanding outlined in this MOU is certainly fake news generated by mischief makers. Government remains fully committed to ensuring that public officers receive a pension of at least 70% of their last salary. The outstanding issue about pension reform, and what is it at the heart of the current impasse, is whether and to what extent government can afford an upfront loan to retiring public officers. That is called an advance payment of pension, what is currently being referred to as gratuity. Whatever the size of that loan or advance payment that is agreed upon by government and the trade unions and staff associations, deductions will be taken out later from the monthly pension payments to repay that loan. Another fact to know, whatever the final loan size and the schedule for repayment at the end of the period, workers will receive all pensions due to them, which is that we have agreed is at least 70% of the last salary. Therefore, sisters and brothers, the suggestion that government's inability to give a 25% loan as an advance payment of pension means that workers will lose is totally false. Sisters and brothers, I assure you, government is committed to the pension arrangement and to pay the full agreed amount. Additionally, the suggestion that there is a law somewhere that dictates that government must pay 25% upfront as an advance pension payment or gratuity is absolutely false. In fact, if such a law exists now, the most appropriate course of action would be for the disputing parties to challenge it in a court of law. Here is another fact, sisters and brothers, that there was no breakdown in the negotiations on pension reform. In the negotiations which involve trade unions and staff associations, the Grenada Union of Teachers, GUT, unilaterally walked out on the bargaining process and prematurely called a strike without going through the accepted process of arbitration provided for in the Labor Relations Act. The action was both unfortunate and disappointing, and it spoke to the level of arbitrariness that quite frankly took a negotiating team by surprise. In the spirit of trade unionism, other unions decided to stand in solidarity with GUT. Through all of this, government has consistently voiced a willingness to reopen dialogue, and in every instance we have offered to do so unconditionally. On the other hand, some representing the trade unions have consistently shown that they're more wired for war than a peaceful settlement. The discussions on Friday, November 23rd were a case in point. Some proposals were put on the table. The government's negotiating team stated that a response will be provided Monday after Cabinet has had an opportunity to review. Mere hours later, one union declared 3 more days of strike. Sisters and brothers, this did not show good faith, a premise on which negotiations are conducted. We admire and understand the role of trade unions and the desire to fight for the members. Rightfully, that's their mandate as a bargaining agent representing their membership. Sisters and brothers, this right brings with it a serious responsibility. A responsibility of leaders to lead on issues that confront members in openness, truthfulness, and genuineness in regard to the objective facts and realities. That said, unions must be in turn appreciate that government has a broader mandate, which is to fight to protect all workers, those who are represented by trade unions and those who are not government, but also fight to protect the weak and vulnerable. In short, government must provide social justice for all, not only a select group of persons. There is one national pie, and it is government's duty to share that pie among all its citizens, not just those who work in the public service. Sisters and brothers, government cannot exceed the demands of the 25% gratuity in the current construct, because it means that we'll have to find an average about $21 million annually for what is, in effect, a loan to public sector workers who have been employed in the period post February 22nd, 1985 and December 31st, 2018. Sisters and brothers, it must be noted that the figure of $21 million does not include what will have to be allocated for the so-called unestablished workers who are not confirmed to an established position. Now, when we come to negotiate for these other workers, that figure would balloon into an even larger amount, which will further undermine government's ability to pay, bearing in mind that there are many others depending on us for social justice. Understanding all of this, it brings us to the point of what is fair. Government position is that it is neither reasonable nor fair to make such a demand for a huge loan upfront, and to be also inflexible with it, knowing that such a payment could lead to possible job losses, cuts in services, or imposition of new taxes, impacts that will inevitably reach the wider population. None of the scenarios will benefit anyone and contravenes government's commitment to provide social justice for all, including the public officers who will get an advance pension payment, only to have it snatched from them through the fiscal measures that will become necessary to support the very payment. But sisters and brothers, there's an even greater repercussion. Such a huge payment at this time would put government in breach of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. It will stop us from getting almost $100 million from the international agencies to invest in our country and its people, which is supposed to come very soon. It would also throw all the sacrifices made by all Grenadians in the last few years down the drain. It will plunge the country into economic crisis. It will create hardships for the people seeking housing assistance, part-time jobs on the roads, assistance with tuition and other academic expenses, the Amani trainees, people who depend on social services, including our elders who have served their country well. Sisters and brothers, how can that be socially just? Government will be grossly irresponsible if it accedes to such a request, which will create more problems with more negative, long-standing effects. My dear sisters and brothers, that is why we appeal to people's collective sense of reasonableness and fairness, to a sense of patriotism from the trade union leaders, who have every right to fight for their members, but must not forget the parents of the children they teach, their friends in the community they play ball with, and their old grand aunt. If anything, Grenada's history has taught us that manufactured strife, fueled by an unwillingness to compromise, always hurts the weakest among us and sets us all back. Trade unions must be aware that they are not dealing with a dispute concerning employees in the private sector. The workers who they are bringing out to strike are teachers, nurses, caregivers, and persons who provide various government services. These people do not work to provide a profit to the employer. These people work to ensure that greater public good is enhanced. They give their services so that everyone, especially the children, will be protected and their interests promoted to ensure a better future. Trade unions, therefore, must act responsibly. They must bear in mind that the invaluable services these people perform and who they benefit from these important services. Therefore, sisters and brothers, when it's come to the public service workers, there has to be a different threshold which must be crossed before trade unions call for such drastic action to be taken. A responsible trade union must employ every dispute resolution mechanism available before taking strike action. It must be prepared to engage in a responsible and flexible manner. We sincerely hope that the trade unions will see the good sense of this approach in the interest of the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Government is therefore committed to protecting the public interest, to have our hospitals functioning so that health care can be provided and the lives may be protected and saved. We are committed to ensuring that schools resume normalcy and that education of our children is not jeopardized. We are committed to the public service resuming normalcy, and we are committed to working towards securing the future of all Grenadians, Carriaconians, and Petite Martinicans. There are mechanisms available for the resolution of the present dispute. The trade unions have stayed away from that, preferring to hold the children and the people of this country hostage, with ransom being an unaffordable and unsustainable loan or advance payments of pension. This action cannot be reasonable and it cannot be fair. Government's many efforts have been rebuffed in the last 2 weeks with increasing belligerence. Government has continuously expressed a desire to resolve the impasse, a willingness to renegotiate at the bargaining table, but there must be a similar willingness by the trade unions to return to the table they walked out on and find a solution in the best interest of all Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Sisters and brothers, it is easy to sound the bells of war, where we must answer to a higher calling, to sing the songs of peace, to safeguard the interests of the nation's children. Would we have to set aside pension reform altogether? We genuinely see a need for reform, but it cannot be at the expense of the country's progress or at the expense of our children's education. As it stands now, the nation's children have lost 2 weeks of classroom time in which they would have to have valuable instruction from the teachers. Time lost can never be regained. But sisters and brothers, if this industrial action continues, government is proposing to have learning centers established across the country to provide this critical face-to-face instruction time for students, the future of our country. Furthermore, sisters and brothers, my cabinet colleagues and I, most of whom are former teachers, have all agreed that we'll visit these centers to teach our students. Sisters and brothers, as a former professor of mathematics, I'm prepared to teach mathematics to our children. Minister Gregory Bowen will teach mathematics and physics. Minister Oliver Joseph will teach economics. Minister Pamela Moses is a former English teacher, and she's willing to teach again. Minister Kate Lewis spent more than 17 years teaching. She's prepared to teach the principles of business, accounts, and office administration again. Minister Kendra Maturin-Stitt taught history, social studies, and English literature. She's prepared to teach the children of Carriacou again. Minister Clarice Mordes-Cohen taught English and science. Minister Emmeline Pear and Minister Delma Thomas taught at the primary level, and they too are ready and willing to teach again. Cabinet members who are not teachers are also prepared to assist in these learning centers to ensure that the interests of our students are well served. We are all prepared to sacrifice our time because we simply cannot allow our children to lose any further. Their future is at stake. The future of this country is at stake. We all must listen to the voices of reason that are out there. The leaders of civil society, the business community, and our religious leaders. Sisters and brothers, despite the existing tension in this industrial climate, as Prime Minister, I remain optimistic about the future of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. I'm filled with renewed hope for this beautiful country, as the vast majority of Grenadians have resisted rancor and applied reason. This hope is based on the public officers who continue to dutifully show up for work, the medical professionals who have refused to compromise the care of citizens and visitors alike, the teachers who continue to help students, many of them preparing for examinations, the parents and students who rejected outside agitation. We particularly salute the increasing number of teachers who showed up to work today and who are, by their own actions, signaling to the union leaders to return to good faith negotiations. On behalf of the government and people of this country, and those with smaller voices, and those with no voice at all, we are grateful. As a government, we are committed to the workers' cause. We won't avoid taking difficult decisions, but we promise to be reasonable and fair. That's the least we can promise to you. And this is the only thing we'll ask of all concerned. May God bless you. And may God bless this beautiful nation of Grenada, Carriacou, and Piedmont. Thank you.
The preceding was an address to the nation by Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell on the current industrial relations climate.
Folks, there you have it. That was Prime Minister Keith Mitchell as he addressed the nation last night, 8 o'clock. And yeah, I'll tell you what, let's take a little break here. I'm very anxious to share with you the comments on Facebook. And I do want to make sure that I pay some bills first. So let's take this little break here and we'll come on back, have a little tete-a-tete, and then we'll get into last night's edition of the National Report.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Spread some cheer and show you care with GRENLEC's Give-A-Wish promotion. Do you know someone who has had a challenging year and deserves some good fortune, or a worthy cause that needs extra support? Grant them a wish this holiday season with GRENLEC. Just pay your bill in full, then write their name, address, and phone number on the top portion of your bill. Add your phone number and drop it into the wish box at any of our GRENLEC customer centers, or you can enter online via our Facebook page. 15 customers will receive a $500 electricity voucher for giving a wish to someone who deserves it. And 15 winners will each have their wish granted, valued at up to $1,500. What's more, 230 lucky customers will win $75 electricity vouchers. Spread the cheer this year with GRENLEC's Give-A-Wish promotion. Visit our website or Facebook page for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends December 21st.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas will give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Co-op Bank and you.
Welcome home.
So tell me the truth. You folks are still trying to absorb what you saw and heard? Let me turn my eyes now to Facebook. I wonder if there's also some stuff out there this morning on Rumble Chat. Hey, Rumble Chat's kind of quiet this morning. However, on Facebook, Margaret's in the house. Good to see you, Mags. T.F. Richard says, good morning, comrades. I'm locked on from Brooklyn. Hey, say hi to Mags for me, T.F. The person says royalty blessed J, but I'm assuming the person means royally blessed J. Just an assumption on my part. And he or she is listening this morning. Fitzroy Adams is saying good morning to y'all. Thank you, Fitzroy. Veronica Sandy says, good morning, Mr. Grant. How is Grenada doing this morning after the show last night at 8 o'clock? Was it a nightmare or what? Veronica, you said, I didn't say. Okay. Lydia James is saying, good morning, George in Grenada. Gem FM, the Sheriff Caliste is saying, good morning, Mr. Grant. Good morning, Mr. Gem FM. Fitzroy Adams says, George, I heard people say how KCM is selfish. Last night, I really listened to him. This man needs to go. So says Fitzroy Adams on Facebook. Gem FM, the sheriff says, sometimes the people with the loudest voice are in the right. I see you now trying to score cheap political points. That was our majority. Gem FM, I'm not quite sure what you're saying, but Margaret says, Margaret was listening intently to the wording of that statement, and she said, tell the young man who don't have a job to think outside the box and create a job for himself. Go plant some land. And while you're at it, get all the deadbeat fathers to shoulder their responsibilities. It is not my responsibility to bail out single mothers. So says Maggie May. Lydia James says, so how would the unions have the nerve to sit and negotiate after this? Referring, I'm assuming, to the address that she just listened to. She closes by saying, NASA. T.F. Richard says, folks, let's be real here. Given, in my opinion, the doggish mentality of our PM, did we expect anything better from him in this Confucius address? I, for one, don't think so. Why is it surprising to me that the unions are going to that meeting today? Now, if Massa passes or states his intentions publicly, do we expect the house slaves to do any different? Think about it. So says TF on the box there on Facebook, okay? Oy, 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 oy. Things are not looking very good. When I was sent the address last night, even before I had a chance to listen to it, I got this yesterday afternoon, by the way. It was embargoed until 8 o'clock. I got it sometime in the late afternoon. And I was really hoping to hear something a little bit more conciliatory, you know? But like, who's it here? I think somebody who says, somebody made a comment a little while ago. Yeah, Lydia James, she's saying, how could the unions negotiate, you know, and that sort of climate? Anyhow, we'll wait and see what happens today. I imagine everybody's ears are going to be cocked up, listening to the media and reading social media and all of that today. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. In the meantime, I'm going to take a little break here, and then we'll come back with last night's edition of the National Report.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
Fitzroy Adams just snuck this one in here. He says, KCM, you can only continue to fool those who believe that you are their God. Ouch. Okay, folks. Here comes last night's edition of the National Report.
Public sector trade unions agreed to return to the negotiating table. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Monday, November 26th, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Public sector trade unions involved in the dispute with government over the advanced payment of pension have agreed to return to the negotiating table. That confirmation from Acting Labour Minister Honorable Anthony Boson. Invoking his powers under the Labour Relations Act, the Acting Labour Minister summoned a meeting of the disputing parties on Monday to discuss arbitration, and the meeting ended with an agreement to resume the pension talks. In a statement, Minister Boson said, and I quote, "I have been reliably informed by the leadership of the trade unions that all industrial action will cease and workers, in particular our teachers, will return to the classroom as of Tuesday, November 27th, unquote. Minister Boson used the opportunity to thank the leadership of the public sector trade unions for their understanding in this matter and for their recognition that the national interest and the interest of the nation's children supersede all other interests. Having just been appointed Acting Labour Minister in the absence of the substantive Minister of Labour, Honourable Peter David, he also thanked Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell for the confidence bestowed on him by asking him to serve in such a critical period. His statement ended by saying he is also gratified to have been of some assistance in getting public sector trade unions, and in particular the Grenada Union of Teachers, to cease all industrial action and to return to the bargaining table to seek a permanent solution to the current industrial dispute. Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell was due to travel to Washington this past weekend to attend a conference on building resilience to disaster and climate change in the Caribbean. He chose instead to stay at home, noting the current industrial climate. Minister for Climate Resilience, Senator Steinman Steele, is representing Grenada at the Washington meeting. The Egyptian billionaire who has invested millions of dollars to construct a world-class hotel in the south of the island says politics must never be mixed with business. Sharia Noel spoke exclusively with Mr. Naguib Sawiris over the weekend. We get more in this report.
Egyptian billionaire Naguib Sawiris, investor and owner of Silver Sands Grenada, says it is not good for any country when politics come into play in decisions that are taken that can contribute to the positive growth and development of the economy. Mr. Naguib, who has invested more than $125 million in the first phase of the Silver Sands project in Grandance, made comments during an exclusive interview with the Government Information Service. The response came in light of the many negative comments that have surfaced with the construction of the Silver Sands Hotel and Villa.
Unfortunately, politics is not a good, it's not a way to, what I mean is in politics when people throw foreigners or investors into the political game, this is very nasty. Why? Because they're not being fair to their own country. Investors who are coming to provide jobs, to increase the income of everybody on the island, to attract more and make more recognition of Grenada. You know, some people don't know even where Grenada is. When you say you're Grenadian, they don't know where is Grenada. They think it's in Spain somewhere or in Pennsylvania. So when someone does that, and because you have something, a political agenda, and you want to throw on the other party some blame, so you use the investor as a scapegoat, that's very dangerous game.
Mr. Naguib, who has already purchased 2 other beachfront properties to develop, explains what he meant by saying involving politics at that level is a dangerous game.
I never break any laws. I go by the book like that. I defy anyone to find something here which is not lawful. I don't want that, and I don't agree to that. And if someone points out, someone said something about something we've done, which we built on the land we bought, was built like that. So it was actually built before we came. We didn't build it even, but they said it's wrong. I asked, they said it was wrong, but nobody did anything about it. I said, no, we don't have anything wrong here. We demolished it immediately, see? But what I mean is my advice is for the opposition, you go to politics against each other the way you want, but keep us out of this. It's not good for the country, it's not good for the people. It will not do good. And the other point is me, I'm not scared by no one or nothing. If they attacked me and like that, I will do 10 projects more.
The Egyptian billionaire says he could have invested in any other Caribbean island, but chose Grenada due to its peace, tranquility, and warmth of its people. For the National Report, I am Sherian Noel.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Big business don't participate.
Welcome back. Government anticipates the Land Bank project will generate more revenue in 2019. The FAO-funded project allows for greater management of Crown lands and gives the government the opportunity to lease lands for agricultural production. From June to November 2018, $964,223 were collected from sale of lands. For that same period, $763,866 were collected from rent for leases. Minister for Agriculture and Lands, Honorable Yolande Bain Hosford, during her contribution to the 2019 budget on Friday, said lands have been allotted in St. David and St. Mark as part of the project.
Cabinet has assigned 100,000 acres of lands in Diamond, St. Mark, and Grand Bacolet, St. Andrews. The ministry has committed a further $150,000 to support the operationalization of this land bank project. Mr. Speaker, the focus of the Land and Survey Division over the last few years has been to effectively and efficiently manage Crown lands. We know how much lands in Grenada are given. And if we don't manage these lands, Mr. Speaker, we're going to end up with no lands at all.
According to Minister Bain Hosford, once proper structures are in place, more revenue can be collected. She addressed the issue of squatting on government lands.
Stop the ad hoc occupation of government lands, which results in squatter settlement. People are squatting everywhere. We have to put a hold on that. And I speak to my colleagues all the time, because we are the ones that have to really embrace that opportunity and make sure that we manage these well. Because people come to us for lands all the time. I sit in my office and every day, every Wednesday, 10, 14 people come for land. When you ask the question, oh, I want to break out of my house, I want to break out of my mother house, and this and it. We have to start planning how we're going to utilize the lands in our country. People cannot get in a house and a piece of land. We don't have lands. We may have to build condominiums, we have to build apartments and these sorts of things. We have to move in that direction. Our young people have to understand that.
And finally, Minister for Trade, Industry, Cooperatives and CARICOM Affairs, Honorable Oliver Joseph, says Grenada needs to find ways to reduce its huge trade deficit, which now stands at more than $1 billion. Making his contribution to the 2019 budget recently, Minister Joseph said more emphasis must be placed on local production as a means of closing the wide deficit.
Our total export in 2017 stood at 81.12 million. That's our total export. Total inputs. The inputs for 2017, Mr. Speaker, 1.13 billion. So we are trade deficit at 1.05 billion.
Export figures for January to June 2018 stand at $46.16 billion, an increase in export of 9.1%. Minister Joseph says of main concern, however, is the country's food import bill.
Food import bill for 2017 was $211.29 million, approximately 19% of all our total inputs. Poultry was the top of the list, $27.5 million in poultry. Now, Mr. Speaker, why Grenada can produce, even though we started first year with 10% of that, like 2.7 million, or 27, and then the next year we go 10 and become self-sufficient over the next 10 years. We are only 10% of our poultry needs that we produce here. The next 90% we import. Poultry is most widely consumed. Barbecue all over the place, and that's good. We eat poultry, but the point I'm making is, why do we need to have a food import bill of $211.29 million in a country like Grenada, with a population of less than 110,000 people?
That story just brought the curtains down on the National Report for today, Monday, November 26th. Let's recap the top story. Public sector trade unions agree to return to the negotiating table. On behalf of all those who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Alrighty, so there you have last night's edition of the National Report. Now, folks, you know, I'm sitting here this morning. The reason why I'm smiling is because no holds barred with George. I'm usually very honest with you and tell you just how I feel. And first of all, I'm sitting here marveling over what I saw and heard last night and again this morning as I play this for you. But the part that has me smiling a little bit is that I'm sitting here and I hope you haven't heard it, but I'm sitting here and my tummy is growling. I am so hungry. All I had this morning was a cup of coffee. So Georgie Porgy's a little bit hungry this morning, and I'm thankful that you're not able to hear the roar that's going on down there. Now, while you folks were listening to the National Report, there are a couple of lengthy comments which came in, and I think they're very important. So please, since we have a couple of minutes left, let me share these with you. First of all, Jerry Hopkin out there on the Big Apple says, "Truth, sincerity, and honoring one's promised word should always matter, especially when what's at stake are workers' rights, that are provided for by a nation's constitution. Further, taking responsibility for the political realities of the day is unavoidable for any leader who has led a country for 20 and a half of the last 30 years. Besides, let's not camouflage the facts and bamboozle the masses by insinuating that the unions would expect government to make an impossible lump sum gratuity disbursement of 25% to the detriment of others in the nation. The fact is, only a percentage of workers would qualify at a time for their pension and gratuity payments. And it is expected that the increase will come in increments. Certainly not all at once, as one may be led to believe based on some of what has been said by Grenada's Honorable Prime Minister in the address. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry's got big eyes, big ears, watches, and listens very carefully. June Noel says, what a guilt trip. June. Yvonne Joseph says, morning, Mr. Grant and all Grenadians. What Keith talking about? All Keith had to do was restore the Pension Act according to the Constitution. The union was wrong to sign an MOU with government. Workers are not bargaining for salary increase. It is about government pension and gratuity. That is a law in the Constitution. There is nothing to negotiate for. The only law that can stand is the constitutional law. People's law, or whatever, had already proven in court that it is unconstitutional and cannot stand. Government pension got nothing to do with NIS pension, so therefore it should not be merged. Gratuity is not a loan, and workers are supposed to pay back. The PM is lying to the nation. He may be out of his mind. Workers don't all retire. What Keith is saying to the nation is a downright lie. And as I speak to you here, something has just come in on Facebook from Penny Penny. Hello, Penny Penny. I like that name. The man is laughing at the people. Fiscal space allows to raise ministers' pay, but pensioners must bow to him. Why? Why is he campaigning? So says Penny Penny. Folks, something else. Irene Rattan. Hello, Irene. You're late, girl. You just barely made it in here this morning, but we're delighted to have you. Says, good morning, patriots. The struggle continues. Indeed, Irene. Let me take another break. We'll come back and wrap it up. Don't go. Because we still have something inspirational for you.
Spread some cheer and show you care with GRENADABROADCAST Give-A-Wish promotion. Do you know someone who has had a challenging year and deserves some good fortune, or a worthy cause that needs extra support? Grant them a wish this holiday season with GRENADABROADCAST. Just pay your bill in full, then write their name, address, and phone number on the top portion of your bill. Add your phone number and drop it into the wish box at any of our GRENADABROADCAST customer centers, or you can enter online via our Facebook page. 15 customers will receive a $500 electricity voucher for giving a wish to someone who deserves it. And 15 winners will each have their wish granted, valued at up to $1,500. What's more, 230 lucky customers will win $75 electricity vouchers. Spread the cheer this year with GRENADA's Give-A-Wish promotion. Visit our website or Facebook page for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends December 21st.
Conveniently located in the Grandin Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenadans will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas, we'll give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Co-op Bank and you.
Okie doke, folks, just gone past 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, and before we go, I have a parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Try to leave you every day with a little bit of encouragement, and today comes from Matthew chapter 7, verses 9 to 11. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, we'll give him a snake. If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? Want to meditate on that a wee bit? Go to Matthew chapter 7, 9 to 11. Jerry says here on Facebook, Jerry says, by the way, I honestly do love that GIS backdrop. Great photography. Yeah, you know, Jerry, I was looking at that. It caught my attention as well. And I'm pretty darn sure that was taken from a drone. It's a beautiful backdrop of the city of St. George. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Irene Rattan says, is it me or is anyone else experiencing buffering? Irene, hello. Where have you been, Irene? We have been experiencing buffering for months. The program's just about over. And I'm looking at it on the monitor here. You know, on the Grenada Broadcast website, you can see the program without having to go to Facebook. And the Prime Minister just finished talking. Can you believe that? Yeah, we have an issue. And my IP was sitting right here yesterday. Anyhow, folks, that's going to do it for Georgie Porgy. Thank you so much for joining me for this morning's edition of Good Day Grenada. May the good Lord bless and keep you, and by His grace, let's get together again tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock.